All right, so I'm back with you today, and we're going to talk a little bit about what I call killing cliches. Being a firearms instructor and having done this for, golly, getting close to 30 years since I've started being an NRA firearms instructor. I actually taught folks even before then. But man, you'd be amazed at the stuff you hear. And I try to spend a goodly amount of time in my classes killing cliches, things that people have heard that just simply are not true. And I'm going to go ahead and start first of all with number one. The best gun for home defense is a shotgun. All right, listen, if your go-to gun guy tells you this, get away from him, okay? Everything he learned about firearms came from all his sessions spent down at the hardware store on Saturday morning playing checkers. Okay, a handgun for home defense is by far, if I had to have only one gun to protect my home, it would be a handgun. The simple reason for that is, and don't get me wrong, y'all know I love shotguns. Simple reason for that is, this can be used with one hand. It's light, it's mobile. I can use it up close. I can use it actually danger close, muzzle contact distance. I can operate light switches. I can talk to the 911 operator while holding the phone and use this. I can carry a child and have a handgun deployed and ready to be used in an instant. I don't care how bad of an action hero you think you are, you're going to need two hands to run a shotgun. Two hands, okay? No way around it. If you're going to run it effectively, you need two hands. I'm with Masad Ayub here. Masad says the shotgun should be considered as artillery. It fires from a fixed position to a known enemy location. I got that. When all the good guys are here, and you know everybody over there is a bad guy, that's when you hand your wife the handgun and you pick up the shotgun. That's the time to get the shotgun out. People say, well, you don't have to aim a shotgun. Look, folks, our shotgun technology has come so far that even with an improved cylinder, modified choke, and our ammunition has progressed so much that we have turkey hunters missing turkeys at 20 yards, okay? Now, granted, they don't have an improved cylinder choke. They're probably shooting a tight choke, but they're missing turkeys at 20 yards. If you figure an inch of spread for every yard from the muzzle, how many yards is it across your bedroom? Okay, my bedroom from one end to the other, 16 feet. That's 4 inches. That's a 4-inch group at that 4 yards. I could miss a bad guy, okay? There's going to be low light. Not going to be able to see a bead. It's going to be fast. I'm going to be suffering the effects of the adrenaline dump. I could literally miss a bad guy with a shotgun. So you do have to aim. Now, the only good thing about firing a shotgun in a closed room, in the dark, at a bad guy, whether you hit him or not, he's probably going to soil his genes, okay? Now, I would, and he'll probably leave, but I wouldn't consider that a one-shot stop. Okay. Handgun is indispensable for home defense. Let's talk about the second one. Oh, and also this stuff about, well, you can use birdshot and not overpenetrate the walls of your home with a shotgun. Listen, how many of you have taken your hand and punched through sheetrock? Now, how many of you have taken your hand and punched through a human body? Not me. Okay? If you expect a shotgun will penetrate a human body, you know it's going to go through sheetrock. So when you touch this thing off in your home at the bad guy, I hope that you don't kill Junior over in the next bedroom, okay? And that goes with any firearm. Any firearm in your home, you need to go ahead and plan it's going to penetrate the walls, and probably even exterior walls. So you need to be conscious of where your neighbor is. The time to decide what's a safe direction to shoot is not at 3 a.m. when somebody's coming through your bedroom window. It's right now. Have a plan. That's what I always teach. Have a plan. You can modify a plan in a bad situation, but you can't devise one in a bad situation. So have a plan. See if there's anything else about shotguns before I leave them. Can't think of any right offhand. If I do, I'll mention it. Now, number 2 is the cliche that police and veterans are knowledgeable about firearms. Guys, when I hear this, I always want to laugh. Let me go ahead and tell you that just logistics alone in a wartime situation indicates that the tip of the spear is going to be small. In other words, the guys who are actively involved in a combat role, like in the U.S. Army, for instance, they only make up 1 out of every 10 soldiers. The other 9 out of 10 is used in logistics and supply, and they're clerks, truck drivers, potato peelers, and that's great. I mean, we need every one of them, and I thank them all for their service. I thank God for their service. But the tip of the spear, the guys who actually do the fighting, is a very select few. So just remember that if you got a guy like running your church security team because he's a veteran, you need to make sure that he didn't spend his 2 years mandatory military service through the draft peeling potatoes at Fort Leonard Wood, okay? In other words, it's preferable that he have combat experience, preferably CQB training. That's a big plus. Now, as for the matter of police, guys, even active duty police who qualify, and at least I think they qualify, twice a year now? Thank heaven. Some of them, the only shooting that they do is what's required to keep their job. As a matter of fact, we used to call police officers who took training over and above what was required to keep their job, we used to call them 5%ers. Now we call them 1%ers. Okay. Now the good news is police training has gotten much better. They just don't stand static and fire at a silhouette and try to get 70%. Okay. They're teaching them to move now. They're teaching them malfunction clearing drills. They're teaching them use of cover and concealment. And that's because the combat pistol games that are out there, and civilians actually have made them look so bad that they advance their training to cover these things that guys like me do for fun 1 or 2 times a month. So Our civilian competitions and training have advanced police training. And they better be training because bad guys are getting better too. Okay. But guys, if an officer is trained with this Glock, there's a reason why, if they carry pursuant to their post certification off duty, they have to carry a gun that they've qualified with. Because they are limited in their knowledge of firearms. They are not firearms experts. This is why I recommend friends of mine who are police officers during traffic stops and routine things like that for them not to take possession of a carry permit's firearm. First of all, you're responsible for it. So if you go back and set it on the hood of your car or put it in the front seat of your vehicle while you're conducting this traffic stop or whatever it is, and some crackhead walks by and see it laying in the seat and takes it, guess who bought it? You did, okay? Another thing is, have you been cleared and trained on that weapon that permit holder is carrying? If you haven't, you shouldn't touch it. Okay, that's the first rule. One of the first rules of firearm safety. If you don't know how it works, leave it alone. And if you haven't been trained and cleared on whatever particular weapon that permit holder has, leave it alone. It's not safe. It's never safe. Ain't your dad ever taught you when you were a kid that a loaded firearm should never change hands? Now, it's different if you got to get the firearm for an investigation, or if things are getting to a point where they're escalating and you think you need to take possession of that weapon for some good reason. Another thing is that while training's getting better, a person who uses a gun for a living is never going to be as effective as a gun guy as a guy who does it because he loves it. Just that simple. Now, there are guys that do it for a living that also love it. That's the kind you need to hunt up, okay? And as far as veterans go, get guys who were in a combat role. They had either some security training, some military police training, some CQB training, and try to pick somebody, regardless of their training level, try to pick somebody who keeps their head in bad situations, who stays calm. You know, you've never seen them get flustered or upset. Okay, so that's killing cliche number 2. Let's go to number 3. Oh, this is a good one. And unfortunately, it's caused me to hurt a lot of people's feelings. And I hate it. But the 45 ACP has more knockdown power than blah, 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 blah. Okay? First of all, let me point out something about the 45 ACP. It is a 110-year-old design. Okay? Nearly. Look, guys, the 1911 and its ammunition were awesome. They set the pace for reliability. They set the pace for performance for the first 75 years of the 20th century. They have been severely outclassed since then. Okay. A 40, say what you want to, my buddy Yeager will tell you that a 40 just means more money to shoot, to practice, costs you more money to practice with, and you got less rounds in your magazine. There's no advantage anymore to the 40, let alone the 45. The 9mm is doing everything everybody needs it to do. And there is no such thing as knockdown power from a handgun. I don't know, how many of you have shot, say it's the last weekend of deer season. You've waited for that big buck all year and you never saw one worth taking. So now you want to put some meat in the freezer. You're sitting up in this tree with your 30-06 or your 7mm mag. Why you got one of those around here, I don't know, but a lot of people do. Out walks a 100-pound doe and you say, oh, that'll be good freezer meat. You put a perfectly placed round right behind her front shoulder, right where the heart should be. And you watch her run off 60 yards like she hadn't been touched before she piles up. Now, you just shot her with a high-powered rifle. It creates hydrostatic shock. You've busted her heart and both lungs. And she's carried her 100-pound body weight 60 or 80 yards before she falls. Well, when you shoot that crackhead with your 45, in the time it took that doe to run that 60 or 80 yards to die, that crackhead can cut your throat. There's no handgun on the planet that will guarantee that. Central nervous system hits will do it. And the odds of getting those, you're talking about hitting something as big around as my finger and it's moving. Central nervous system hits cannot be counted on. But if I had to get one, I'd much rather have 18 rounds in my gun than 14 or 8. If a bad guy's coming on me and ain't stopping. It's always been, and it will always be, about bullet placement. Not the size of the bullet you're throwing. Okay? Alright. Also about this knockdown power. And I get it. I love those Western movies where the bad guy, the bad guy's creeping through the door and the good guy hits him with a loaded double-aught buck from the 12 gauge and it picks him up and it throws him 4 feet through the wall. That's awesome. I love that. It's BS. Newton's third law of physics says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. If stopping that load of buckshot knocked that man 4 feet through a wall, what would starting that load of buckshot do to a man? Think about it. Number 4, women are best served with a revolver. Now, this one goes right hand in hand with number 5. Okay? My wife / mom / girlfriend can't effectively operate a semi-automatic. All right, y'all. These are classic lines the guys say when they don't want to be outshot by their wife. Because they know if she had the quality of gun that he had, she would outshoot him. Okay? Just last week, I had somebody at a gun class, and a young woman comes up to me, her and her husband, and she said, well, I had to get this because this happened, and I had problems with my hand, and I just couldn't pull the slide back. I stepped out from under the pavilion. I handed her my big nasty Glock 17. I said, hold it right here. Keep it pointed down and away from you. Tuck this hand into your body. She did. I said, grip right here and push with this hand. And as soon as it goes as far as it can go, release with this hand. She pulled it in close to her body, did like that, released, and I wish you could have seen the glare that she gave her husband. Okay. Here's the deal, folks. There's only 2 reasons. We'll say 3. Why a woman can't operate one of these. Number 1, you won't teach her. You are unwilling to teach her. Well, you can't teach her, or you're unwilling to teach her. And she don't want to learn. It's that simple. You can go right now on YouTube here, and you can pull up videos of 10-year-old girls running semi-automatics in 3-gun competition. Don't tell me you can't, okay? And you say, well, if she has a malfunction, she can have a malfunction with anything she's running. Anything. Had a guy tell me once, well, my dad died and the only gun mom had over there was his Glock. She couldn't run it, so I took it and gave her my 5-shot 38. I'm like, now wait a minute. Your mother lives alone now that your dad's gone. You took her picture because she didn't feel comfortable with the Glock because she didn't know how to work it. You left her a 5-shot 38. Why didn't you just go, here, Mom? And now Mom has 17 rounds before she has to do anything. Instead, you leave her the 38 where all she's got to do is pick it up and squeeze the trigger, but she's only got 5 shots. How much sense does that make? None. Okay, 0. All right. And what it amounts to is you've got Mom protecting your most precious things on the planet with an inferior weapon while you're out knocking around with your hairy-chested pals with your $900 SIG on your hip, okay? If anybody is going to need that gun and need it bad, she has much more of a chance of needing it than you. So teach her how to use a semi-automatic, or send her to me and I'll teach her. Okay, that's what I get paid for. All right, 6. If I shoot someone outside my home, I need to drag them inside. Please, people, have you never watched one episode of CSI? Let me explain something to you. And I hope that if you've been through my class, you understand this. If you show a gun to someone in a threatening manner, if you point a gun at someone, certainly if you shoot at or shoot someone, there had better be only one reason you did that. It's because you were in imminent fear that they were going to harm you, seriously harm or kill you or someone you love. I don't care where they are. I don't care if you shoot them standing on your headboard or if you shoot them walking a tightrope over Niagara Falls. There had better be only one reason you pulled that trigger or showed that gun or threatened with that gun. Anything else in this state and most states is called aggravated assault. Okay? If you shoot someone outside your home and you drag them inside, you will go to jail. You will go directly to jail and you won't collect $200. Just that simple. Now, you may get out later once the investigation goes, but you can face a charge for tampering with evidence. They'll know it. They'll know better what happened after investigating a crime scene than you will, because you will have been suffering from tachycardia, tunnel vision, auditory exclusion, cognitive dissonance, all those things that happen when the crap hits the fan. They're going to be better able to tell you what happened from what they see than probably you will. So no, please don't be dragging anybody in your house. Number 7, the safest strategy for children is to keep your guns hidden, locked up, never talk about them. Kind of the out of sight, out of mind deal. All right. Y'all, the only thing I can think of that is more stupid or stupider The only thing I can think of that is more stupid is number 8. And we're going to talk about number 8 in a second. This mindset, I would say, if the truth be known, is the number 2 killer of children in accidental shootings. Listen, if you keep firearms in your home, I'm glad you keep them locked up. I'm glad you keep them in the safe or locked in a lockable case. That's awesome. But listen, if you have firearms in the home, firearms should be talked about, they should be handled, and they should be shown by everybody in that household who is old enough to understand that you don't drink things from under the kitchen sink, okay? Anybody old enough to understand that those little slots in that wall on that power outlet aren't for sticking forks into. If you've got kids old enough that they can understand that concept, they can start learning firearm safety. And it's your responsibility to teach them. Because if you don't, you'll have number 8, okay? Number 8 are the people who say, I don't believe in firearms in the home. I won't allow my kids to touch one or go near one, or I won't even allow them in a home where I know firearms are present. This is the number 1 killer of children with accidental shootings. And the unfortunate thing is, a lot of times they kill other people's kids, not themselves. Because nobody has ever taught them anything. They become naturally curious. Their curiosity will override their sense of danger eventually. People like this are the ones who come to my house, and my kids, I have to hear my kids tell them, don't touch that. When they go to touch one of my decorative guns hanging on the walls that won't fire anyway. But anyway, you shouldn't touch them. They don't know anything about them, but yet they try to handle them. And my kids have to tell them, don't do that. Everybody in my household, from the time they were very young, learned about firearms. And when they asked to shoot, provided I felt they could do it safely, they were allowed to shoot. And, you know, the kids in my family have been shooting since they were about 3. And it's just that simple, folks. If you try to hide your guns from your kids, they're going to sneak behind your back and they're going to get them. Or worse yet, they're going to go somewhere else in their life. You realize that there are over 300 million firearms in private possession right now? Do you realize that the odds of your child coming in contact with a firearm someday are 1 to 1? So knowing that the odds of your kids coming in contact with a firearm are 1 to 1, do you want them, you want their reaction when they come in contact with that firearm to be based upon having been trained by a knowledgeable person in at least very basic and rudimentary firearm safety? Or do you want them, when they come in contact with that firearm, to handle it based upon what they've seen in video games, on movies, and on TV? God forbid that should happen. The thought of that scares me to death, okay? So if you're one of these people, this is what I call the ostrich syndrome. If you're one of these people that deals with firearms by sticking your head in the sand, congratulations. Because your children, you have just created a ticking time bomb. Not only are they in danger themselves, but they are endangering anyone within bullet range if they ever come in contact with a firearm. This kind of mentality is insanity. and it is negligence. I don't know of any other way to put it. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of those people. You can probably figure that out. All right, so 9. 9 is the belief that semi-autos are more reliable, or revolvers are more reliable than semi-automatics. The folks who believe this are the same ones that tell you that the shotgun is the best gun for home defense. They only know the cliches. They have no real training or real world experience. There are a lot of things that can put a revolver out of commission. Okay, I love telling the story about, we did a class for a church security team. We had 3 guys show up, and I tell them, I want you to bring what you're going to be carrying in church. We had 3 guys show up with revolvers that day. One of them, praise the Lord, was an expert with a revolver, knew how to use it, knew how to run it. One of the other ones had a revolver, and all of them were quality revolvers. It was a Ruger and 2 Smith & Wessons. One of the Smith & Wessons ran fine. One of the Smith & Wessons locked up. We actually had to get a screwdriver. We had to, with a loaded revolver, we had to hold the ejector rod housing and cock the hammer and release the hammer and cock the hammer and release the hammer to tighten up those left-handed threads on that ejector rod housing, because this guy didn't know, he had never shot enough to know that on a K-frame Smith, it is legendary for that ejector rod housing to work loose while you're shooting. And everybody that's ever trusted their life to one of those guns, the last thing they do before they close that cylinder is they twist that thing to make sure it's still tight. Okay, this guy didn't know that, and his gun literally locked up on him. It was out of commission. The other guy was shooting a Ruger LCR, great little revolvers you can watch on some of my revolver videos. One of them I'm shooting is a Ruger LCR 22. But listen, in 38 caliber, these things got a lot of snap. It's a pretty violent little recoil. Now the grips and the plastic frame ameliorate that a little bit as to what the shooter feels. But in that cylinder, those rounds that are waiting to be fired are taking a beating. And we had a guy in that same class that day that had a 38 bullet jump the crimp and was sticking out past the end of the chamber. And when he went to fire the revolver, it was a double action only. The gun locked up because the bullet in his 5th chamber had jumped the crimp and was poking out the end of the cylinder. And when it hit the forcing cone, the gun locked up. We had to literally take a wooden dowel rod, drive the bullet back into the case in the chamber so that we could unload the gun. A piece of pocket lint in the end of a chamber, forced against the forcing cone as the cylinder is turning, will lock a gun up to where not only can it not be fired, you can't unload it. It's locked up. Okay, there are a lot of things that can happen to a revolver. You know what's funny is we had some malfunctions of semi-autos in that class that day, and every one of those malfunctions was solved by going. Ain't that amazing? Listen to me. The days of a revolver being more reliable than a semi-auto are gone. If you buy quality stuff and you train to use it, this is the preferred fighting tool of anybody with any knowledge anywhere in the world. There's no reason. I love revolvers. I'm a revolver guy. I have a lot of them, and I think they're awesome. But when I'm saving my life, this is what I rely on. Just that simple. All right. Number 10. This is my favorite, okay? I am from Tennessee. I have testicles. Therefore, I am an expert marksman. Now, this is generally followed by the excuse after missing the target by this statement: well, if it had hair on it, I could hit it. Implying that if he was hunting, he could have made that shot. Yeah, right. We got you. Yeah, the good news is that when you're hunting, there are no witnesses around to see you miss or wound animals, okay? Look, guys, because you're from Tennessee, and so was Davy Crockett and Alvin York, doesn't mean a thing. But I have good news for you. Regardless of what you think you know and how good you are, I am a firearms instructor. And if you will listen to your instructor and you will attempt to align the sights, press the trigger, continue with follow through, then allow the trigger to reset gently, and then repeat a lot, you're going to hit a target. Okay? Marksmanship is not magic. It's consistency. And in order to become consistent at a thing, you have to have economy of motion. You have to have a disciplined muscle memory. You have to have concentration. And you have to do it the same way every time. That's what consistency means. So that means you have to pull the trigger a lot. That's how you get good. There's no shortcut. And it's a perishable skill. Trust me, it is. I know from experience. So you got to keep at it if you're going to be good. It's just that simple. No secret to it. All right, guys. Hey, look, this has been a long one. I know. I appreciate you watching. And click to subscribe. Click the bell for notifications. And I'll be talking to you later.